Hi, everybody. It is almost 12. It's almost midnight. We're going to be burning the midnight oil again. 1,627 days since Richard was murdered, premeditatedly murdered on Fort Bliss. And of course, we're getting more and more information about the fraud, about the connection with the Veterans Administration fraud, about the, connection to the cartel. It just, just gets worse and worse with the corruption on Fort Bliss. And, when people start calling Fort Bliss a death camp, then you know that things are not good. They're not good. And that means it's a failure of leadership. And so we're going to talk today about, what's in the news. This this huge news that's in California. And California has had wildfires for year after year, right? And we all know that wildfires are caused by poorly managed land. I mean, if you can't put the fire breaks in there, if you can't clean up brush, if you can't uh, you know, protect the cities. Um, it with all of the millions and billions and trillions of dollars, and yet you can't even keep water in the hydrants. I mean, the level of corruption. Um, it's not like California doesn't have any money, and it's a very, very important land. It's second only to the Nile Basin. uh, as far the the Nile has the richest soil, and so does California. The soil is, it is prime property. And you can say, oh, because of the $1 million houses and everything, but it's the land under it's the soil. It's all about the soil. And how did I learn about the soil? When I was first years in college, I worked at Blackland Research Center in Temple, Texas, and traipsed around with my wellies on. Uh, after it rained, getting soil samples and cutting. My job was to cut these soil samples up and record their depths and put them in cans at every so many inches in cans, record what depths they were, and then they would do research on this soil. And the soil was so important for healthy crops, right? And you wanted the best soil. And California has top soil. And we don't have land management in California. We don't have fire management in California. And it is, the economy there. I mean, Texas is huge too. Texas has a huge economy. California is another one that has a huge economy. This is all unnecessary. And, I've heard some people say, oh, what is God doing? This is not God. Uh, I mean, God could do whatever he wants, right? But we need to look at the corrupt leadership, the leadership that gets paid loads of money to manage all of this, and they mismanage. The leadership that we pay loads of money for at Fort Bliss, in El Paso, in the Department of Justice, in the, and you can go on and on. And what we see is mismanagement. 4 years, it should never take 4 years. Even though we have accomplished remarkable, remarkable forward motion and getting the declaration of death for our son. But that added more questions, right? More questions because the paperwork, the receipts that we have declare that he was murdered on Fort Bliss. On Fort Bliss. Okay? So where are his remains? They have his remains. They would never give the declaration of death if they didn't have his remains. Of course they have his remains. Of course they have his remains, and of course it is damning, damning evidence. And they won't give us our son's remains. This is such huge crime. And the crime of the cover up is so big that, and it's being exposed. Can you imagine what we have accomplished by exposing all of this? Because there is no doubt in anyone's mind that Richard was not murdered on Fort Bliss, or was murdered on Fort. There's no doubt that Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss. Everybody knows that Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss because that's what the paperwork says. And the DOD would never give a declaration of death without having his remains. Not in this case, no. And because we have witness after witness after witness of authorities, not just a passerby, but authorities, the Directorate of Emergency Services, Thomas Kane, the DHS liaison to the Department of Justice and Department of State in Mexico, Jaime Corona. We have McMillan. We have Nadal Baim, who is the father-in-law of Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado in the G3. We have the whistleblower, the source about Sean Bernabe, Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, who's so dirty he needs to be stripped of his uniform. He's a disgrace to the uniform. He's a disgrace to the stars. He is a disgrace to our country. He is a traitor. He has committed treason. People need to understand the level of treason that these leaders have committed. And look at California, the level of being a traitor. I don't know if you would call that treason for their neglect, for their passing the money that's supposed to be for their fire department, for water, for everything to another country, a foreign country. And I love foreign countries. There are some that are not so lovable, but there are some that are lovable. But they are not hired, they are not voted in to care for other countries. They're hired in, they're voted in to manage their position, their state in our country. And the level of, they feel that they can get away with the negligence, the obstruction of justice, the abuse of power, the lying to the very people that hire you. Those days are numbered. They have to be held accountable for not doing their job, for not doing what, and then they have to pay restitution. Give us a refund. We want a refund. And then, let's double it, let's quadruple it. In California, the destruction alone, that these leaders have caused by not preparing the land, by not making sure that the fire departments were well funded, by not making sure that all the fire hydrants were in working order and that the water was there. The same thing with Fort Bliss, for not making sure that all the cameras were in working order, for not making sure that all of the guards were in place, for not making sure that the oversight was absolutely holding any kind of criminals accountable so that the cartel would not infiltrate onto our military installation and be able to murder our most valuable assets, not be able to sell drugs to our most valuable assets, which are our volunteer sons and daughters, not be able to infiltrate and traffic unaccompanied children, hundreds of thousands of them. They're not unaccompanied. They're taken. They're taken children. They always manipulate the word, right? These are taken children and register them and traffic them through Fort Bliss using taxpayers' money. That if the leadership was doing their job, they would not be able to do this. They would not be able to extort our volunteer sons and daughters, our most valuable assets. They would not be able to destroy house after house after house in California if they were doing their job. But because we have a cartel who has come over the border and has infiltrated and extorted and created the El Paso cartel, bringing in, I guess they're recruiting. The cartels have a better time recruiting than our military. The cartels are having a better time recruiting than our military. And they're infiltrating into our government, into our agencies, into our military installations, and into even the California area. And all you have to do is look at the news. Look at the news, and you can tell something is very wrong. And remember that the cartels, in the words of Judge Roger Rodriguez, the coordinator for terrorism and homeland security program on U.S. Army Fort Bliss, you can't differentiate between cartels and a terrorist organization. These are terrorist organizations that are recruiting, are recruiting, are recruiting, and they're making loads of money, and then they fund politicians recruiting. And this is what we call the deep state, because through that, they are influencing our policies, our law. They are also intentionally interfering in our justice system, in our law enforcing, and they're lawless. And this is the good news. That sounds so big. It sounds so big. But the good news is that we have the Constitution. We need to guard it. We need to defend it because they are lawless. And the Constitution is what we can use to prosecute these terrorist organizations that have come over through the border. This is why, and I'm coming on late because I was working on a new song. And really it's like there's a Trump dance, but now there's a song, right? There's going to be a song. I'm going to put it out. Um, and the wall is the answer. And it's just as simple as that. And well, probably years ago, I used to on here, and there's a story about the ambulances in the valley that, on a cliff, people would fall off the side of the cliff, and the government group came together, and you know uh, brainstormed what to do about these people falling off the cliff and hitting themselves on the rock, and then you need an ambulance to go and get them. And the common sense people would say, well, put a fence on the cliff, on the side of the cliff, so that people cannot fall off. But the other uh, insane group said, no, we'll just spend more money of the taxpayers to provide more ambulances. And if you haven't heard that poem, it's really, I'm going to dig it up and I'm going to read it again because it is very applicable to what's going on here. You know, if you have a state that has wildfires, then you prepare for it. You put those fire breaks up. You put the fence along the cliff. That's common sense. And you make sure that you have a lot of water to fight these fires and that you have a well equipped fire department to fight the fires. And they did everything against that. Everything. I mean, it's sickening to look at the news right now. It is absolutely sickening to look at. These leaders need to be held accountable. The destruction is because of corrupt and negligent leadership. And it's what caused Richard to be murdered, to be forcibly removed out of his barracks room, murdered, and then his remains, his body, his corpse disrespected. They have him. They have him. And we want him. And the leadership that has been in corrupt dealings connected to the Veterans of Administration, IDES Pablo. Richard's case is connected to the IDES Pablo, the Veterans Benefits. Richard's case is connected to the trafficking, the hundreds of thousands of taken children that were registered through Fort Bliss and now are mostly dead. Richard's case is connected to the Walmart mass shooting case, the trafficking of weapons and ammunition, the political bravado to lie to the public about the manner and cause of this Walmart mass shooting, what was behind it, what caused it, to lie, to use a special needs individual, very special needs individual, and lie and give an open checkbook of taxpayers' money to carry it out. And to take the the benefits of the giving spirit, the volunteer giving spirit of Americans that gave money to the Walmart victims, and to take that money, over $12 million of it, and to commit fraud on the distribution of it to those that weren't even eligible, and those that were the true victims, not a penny. Richard's case is connected to the cartel, to the Mexican cartel and this criminal group. There's not a doubt in my mind that it's connected to those terrible entities, terrible events. And that's why every day, here we are, 1,636, 26, 27 days, 1,627 days, and we will go on until this is exposed, until the criminals are exposed, like Bob Moore, like Angela Kacherga, like FBI agent Jesus Eddie Nieto Jr., like Leilani Hart, because all of it, all of it connects to Leilani Hart. She's absolutely connected to the Hart child care, the child corn, the illegal purchase of weapons, the vulgar activity inside her own family amongst each other that is illegal. These are all felony crimes. The crime against a 7-year-old in her master bedroom, that's a felony crime by multiple members of her household. The tampering, the unauthorized access through a CID agent to Vita Nusa to case files, to tampering with Richard's file. The admission of Tavita Nusa that he hurt Richard. Just the access, the relationship between Leilani Hart and Thomas Kane, the Directorate of Emergency Services, and the lack of or tampering of CCTV video footage that would implicate individuals. The connection with CID Howell, the senior CID Howell, with the Hart family. The conflicts of interest with Angela Kacherga, with the FBI agent Jesus Eddie Nieto, and Leilani Hart being used by El Paso Matters, Bob Moore, the disgraced, he's just no good. He's just no good at all. Using a confirmed convicted criminal, Leilani Hart, who's absolutely a prime suspect in the murder of our son, in the murder case of our son, and using her as a source to attack a whistleblower, the only MAGA judge, who along the border, who happens to be also in the interview, the coordinator for terrorism and Homeland Security program on U.S. Army Fort Bliss. Wowzer. You're going to use Lonnie Hart as a source? Richard must be, he was reporting, he was doing a good job getting evidence, documenting it, reporting it for this level of retaliation and for his murder. And of course, they were under so much scrutiny because of Vanessa Guillen, because of President Trump being president at the time and scrutinizing the military and their criminal activities that the four-star generals were up to. And clearly, General Milley was up to no good. Clearly, it's obvious. It's obvious in everything. It's obvious in everything. And clearly, Michael Garrett was up to no good. It's obvious. And Clem Cower, too. Obvious. And they need to be stripped from their benefits, from ever wearing our beautiful uniforms with our beautiful stars. And the same thing for the senior NCOs that were involved in this. First Sergeant Jay Paulin, First Sergeant Michael Ruggiero, Command Sergeant Major Jake Jakovitz. They need to be all stripped of every benefit. Man, they need to be arrested for the traitors that they are. Absolute traitors to this country, to our volunteer sons and daughters, and don't forget, um, even though they are traitors to this country, they've hurt other people in other countries. Because whatever happens in the United States doesn't stay in the United States. So the corruption domino effects into Mexico, into other countries. And that's why it's so important for us to be America first, to be MAGA. Because to be MAGA, we will bless other countries. Look at Canada. Canada gets so much billions and billions and billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars of support from the United States. If the United States doesn't do well, Canada doesn't get the benefits, right? It's, I mean, I think it's a very interesting proposition to say Canada should be our 51st state. When you look at how we support Canada, why not? Then why not? They should be our 51st state. I mean, at least they would be our state for all the support that we give and the security that we give. It really is time for some common sense. And absolutely, Greenland is vital to national security. Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, you can just look right behind me and you'll know why. Absolutely, 100%. Greenland is important to our national security. And so is the Panama Canal. And if other countries are going to run that and hurt our country, meaning risk our Constitution, because that's what they're after. They're after our land and our people. And the Constitution is that. It gives us rights. It is the land and the people. We are telling the government, like what is going around on the internet, what President Reagan was reminding everybody is that our Constitution is so magnificent because it tells the government what it's allowed to do. It doesn't tell the people what they're allowed to do. It tells the government what they're allowed to do. And when you understand that, then you understand that the criminals are lawless because they put themselves above the people. They put themselves above our volunteer sons and daughters in the military. They put themselves above the Californians that are now have lost their homes and all their memories in their homes. The memorabilia, I should say. So, yeah, I think it's coming. I think the politics has really shifted now. From 2020, it was just so, I can't even tell you how insane it was. And I have live streams to prove it. And how, because of that level of corruption, they were able to continue with their criminal activities of fraud within the Veterans Administration, with their trafficking. Um, on Fort Bliss, outside of Fort Bliss, and to block, a lot of FOIAs and a lot of complaints. But that that has been done for a while now, but it's really going to be over because, you know, um, why have we gotten as far as we've gotten? Uh, because of hours and hours and hours every day of hard work of investigation, documentation, and then filing it. It's been absolute hell. And in the midst of it, to be harassed, to be threatened, I can't even tell you what all that they did. I won't even allow myself to tell you everything that these harassers have done to us. The threats that they have done, the attempts to ruin us. And it's been remarkable, and that we have because they have open checkbook. These are because you see it through this article lately, and I should put it up, this article about the Tesla truck guy, right? Um, that at Fort Bragg, they have a whole group of psyops that they absolutely, and in the article, it um, confirms that psyop is all about lying. And I can tell you right now, we have run into many of them that all they know how to do is lie. All they know how to do is this psyop. I don't even know if they know that they're lying anymore. They're so into this position that it is, it's just uh, their lies are just the way of life for them now, and it's so destructive. And it's going to be the wake up for them is going to be pretty rough. It's going to be rough. So all of that, just that has come out, just that is being discussed, even though I was reading some new messages about that case today. And um, the Army does not want it to get out that this is the PAO for the Joint Chiefs of Staff, if you join the military, we don't want the public to know that if you join the military, you're going to be messed up. And I'm saying it a nice way. Nice way. He wasn't so nice. You're going to be messed up. So why would you want to join the military? No, especially when the cartel's recruiting. This is what has happened. This is what has happened. And so Trump has been right all along. Trump has been right all along. And Judge Roger Rodriguez has been echoing Trump's words, Trump's position. I should say Trump's position that the wall needs to be put up, and we need to absolutely go after these criminals that are coming over the border, and that the cartels, you cannot differentiate them from terrorist organizations. And I hope that, I'm saying that, um, yeah, I'm feel very, very confident that that's exactly the position that I've been reading over and over again. That Trump is right, and the only MAGA judge on the border that supports Trump's position that the borders need to be secured is Judge Roger Rodriguez, who happens to be the whistleblower, the one that identified the prime suspects, on and on, right? I mean, the list is very long, and those that were interfering in Richard's case, including the CID agent Tavita Nusa, which implicated, of course, Agent Soto, which, and then because of the tampering of the file and them not releasing that the file is not dependable because it's been tampered with. There's so much that has been left out, including Richard's whistleblowing, his whole whistleblowing case, who Soto and Tavita Nusa were assigned to. They were assigned to his whistleblowing. The whistleblowing case came first. So the tampering is, you have to think outside the box what they were tampering with. And then you add in the Walmart mass shooting, which is absolutely connected to Richard's unit. Directly connected to Richard's unit through 3905 Bliss Avenue. It's just, yeah. It is, what we have accomplished is remarkable. And we are just really busy still documenting. Today we documented and filed many more. We have such a, I don't know, we've done so many that we're getting very, very fast, right? We're getting very fast. So we can do multiples a day now of the filing. Whereas at the beginning, it was like maybe one every 3 days or, but now it's multiples every day, and we're filing, and we're just counting the days now until Trump takes office, and we'll see. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But if he was right about the wall, and if he was right about so many things, right about Greenland, right about Canada, I mean, all you have to do is look up a little bit of the financials of how much we have to support Canada with. I mean, we get the raw end of the stick. We get the raw end of the stick with NATO, and Canada is part of that. So, and that means that the people don't get their forest cleaned up, do not get their brush cleaned up, do not get their fire lanes made. And next thing you know, you get a fire, or look at North Carolina still. We still have a whole bunch of downed trees here from the storm that we had months ago. And Georgia and Tennessee, why isn't that done already? Why isn't that done? It's not like we don't pay taxes. They get trillions of dollars. Our budget is trillions of dollars. It's a disgrace, the amount of corruption that our leadership is up to. It's a disgrace. And from the deaths of our soldiers to the burning of our homes to just so many dangers. For $37 trillion in debt, we should have like gold roads, really, bridges that, I mean, amazing, amazing structures. But we have evidence after evidence after evidence. And our concern is especially for the leadership of Fort Bliss, and we have evidence upon evidence upon evidence that the leadership on Fort Bliss was so bad that a whistleblower was not protected, and that the security on Fort Bliss was then breached through corruption. The CID was breached. The security on Fort Bliss was breached. The unit was breached. The arms room, where we believe now the murder took place, in the arms room. And, you ask, oh, well, Vanessa Guillen was in the arms room. Why would Richard be in the arms room? The arms room, and it would be interesting to see if there's a connection between this criminal group at Fort. Well, we know through Michael Garrett that they're connected because he was the general. He was the FORSCOM general. But it would be interesting if this same criminal group, right, was this a planned thing? I don't know with Vanessa Guillen, because she was also murdered in the arms room. And, 4 years, even though we had the paranormal, right, told us it was in the arms room. But now we have confirmation. And we didn't really know to believe her. I can't say I disbelieved her, but I was very careful. We were very careful and how much weight we just didn't know with all the information. And of course, she was attacked, which, I'm very sorry for that. We didn't attack her, but this criminal group trying to protect the corrupt leadership did that. And I'm very sorry for that. It's just, they're so criminal. They're so criminal. And I wonder if she can press charges against the government for the psyop that was committed against her, the harassment. I don't know. It would be interesting. Um, uh, but absolutely, she was saying it was in the arms room. Now we have it confirmed that it was in the arms room. And we'll release that information soon. Um, but the reason why they do that is because there's no cameras in the arms room. It's a secure area. And so, when we had um, indication, they were very nervous about it back then, and that even confirms it more. But now we have other evidence. So um, all of that was allowed to happen twice, months apart. And don't forget about Glendon Oakley Jr. and his barracks room. I mean, and then a soldier goes missing, so to speak. They knew he was dead because the way they reacted. You have Vanessa Guillen, you have Glendon Oakley Jr. and the whole Walmart thing, and they're not on their toes. I mean, we knew that they were lying to us. We knew that that was a big indication they were lying to us. So, yeah, Richard was forcibly removed. He was murdered, and in the arms room, and and there was a cover up. There was a cover up. So, thank you so much. God bless you, and please share this information. And the days are, they're coming quick. Um, Not quick enough for us, but they're coming quick, and we've been patient this long. We're going to work until whenever. And if you, and this is something I need to say more often, if you are involved in this and know this information, you know, I think the time is up. I I do not know why. Um, who wants to go along with such evil? Because they're looking at the death penalty. And if you're aiding and abetting, it's a big problem for you. A very big problem for you. So stop protecting. I mean, I know there's this Santa Teresa Jetport thing. Stop aiding and abetting like the likes of Leilani Hart and Dallas Hart and Tavita Nusa. And it's a big problem. Um, yeah. Um, you need to come clean. So thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you, Anicia, for coming on. Thank you for your prayers and your love. As always, we're very appreciative. All right. Thank you so much. Until